Hey folks, so I'm sure you all have heard about it, that at this rally where Donald Trump was speaking, he was blasting the Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, and then he had the crowd then chant, send her back, basically calling for this woman to be deported. He was going over political positions she had that he didn't like, her criticism of Israel, her criticism of U.S. policy toward Venezuela, and that the crowd began chanting, send her back, send her back. And this was, parroting the tweet that Trump had made earlier saying if you don't like it in the United States, if you believe in socialism or communism, you should leave the country. Now this has happened, and there's been widespread condemnation of it, and people are saying, well, this is a new low for Donald Trump, this is racist, people are saying a lot of things. I have a particularly unique take on it, which I hope that you'll listen to here for the next few minutes. So I would say that this was beneath Donald Trump. And really, in a lot of ways, this was almost a repudiation of what the Trump presidency was supposed to be all about. So folks who watch this channel will know that I am not a Trump supporter. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I strongly disagree with Trump. Folks who watch this channel will also know that I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either. And when it gets down to it, amid all the bad things about Donald Trump, I didn't agree with Trump about immigration, didn't agree with Trump and the statements he made about Muslims, didn't agree with Trump and his, call to defend the police and advocacy of torture and escalation of the police state in the United States. But there were things about Trump, amid all the things I didn't like, there was kind of a glimmer of something good, right? There was a glimmer of some kind of higher thinking. For example, Trump talked about international global capitalism and the elites who benefit, and talked about making the Republican Party a party of the working class. And he appealed to the people against these international elites that have benefited at the people's expense. Now that's pointing toward some of the thinking we need in the country. Trump criticized U.S. wars. And he said that, that we're done meddling in foreign countries, toppling regimes, that he didn't agree with that. Again, pointing towards some good kind of thinking. Either in amid everything I didn't like, there was kind of a glimmer that Trump possibly could be pointing toward some better sentiments among the population, right? That seemed to be the aspect. And more than anything, I saw the Trump presidency and Trump's victory in the Republican primary and ultimately his election as proof that neoconservative thinking was over. Now, what is neoconservatism? Well, starting in the 1968 presidential election, you had Richard Nixon, and he started adopting some of the rhetoric of George Wallace. And, he talked about being an advocate for the silent majority, called himself the law and order candidate. Instead of advocating, conservative principles and preaching the need to defend tradition and community as conservatives have, he just kind of adopted this kind of stupid stuff, this stupid thinking, right, that Nixon utilized in order to gain power, right? For example, it was my country, right or wrong, right? There was a popular song, Okie from Muskogee, about how ordinary good folks in America hate hippies and support wars and don't protest, And conservatism during the late Cold War adjusted to stop being an ideology about people defending traditional hierarchies and society, and it evolved into kind of just a really dumb way of being. And it was engineered by two particular thinkers. Neoconservatism, two people are generally referred to as the fathers of neoconservatism. One of those is a philosophy professor by the name of Leo Strauss. Leo Strauss, philosophy professor, taught his students that they were philosopher kings, like in Plato's Republic, and that they should rule over average people, and that average people are just stupid. His favorite TV show, Leo Strauss, his favorite TV show was Gunsmoke, the cowboy show, where the good guy wears a white hat, the bad guy wears a black hat, no ambiguity, very simple plot structure. Leo Strauss thought average Americans were stupid, and that it was the duty of his students at these elite schools to basically dumb down and feed the American people a narrative that was like a TV episode of Gunsmoke. It was this elitist brand of thinking. The other individual who's credited with the creation of neoconservatism is Irving Kristol. Now, Irving Kristol was a Trotskyite communist. He was with Max Shachtman and the Trotskyites that turned against the Soviet Union. And then he got drafted into the military. And if you read his New York Times obituary, he says he had never dealt with average working class people before, and he was just blown away, and so he rejected Marxism on the basis of hating average working class people because he served in the military with them, and he became a conservative, but it was conservatism tainted by this elitist superiority, right? Neoconservatism was basically the belief that average Americans are stupid, and you need to, just appeal to the most primitive, non-thinking elements of them, and get them to just say, if you don't like it here, move to another country, or just this kind of appealing to ignorance, politics of ignorance. That was neoconservative thinking. If you didn't support the Iraq War, you were disrespecting our troops, and so it wasn't okay to disagree with the war. That kind of thinking, right, where conservatism was just kind of a defense of the status quo and the political establishment. And if you didn't like it, you hate America. I always wondered what that meant. You hate America. I'd be like, no, what is America? Why do you think I hate America? Can you tell me what this America is that I hate? They can never answer it. But if you just stray too much from what you're supposed to think, you're disrespecting or you're hating America and you should move to another country. This is neocon stuff. And the Trump presidency, at the beginning, seemed to be a repudiation of that among conservatives because it wasn't working anymore. And the rise of the Ron Paul stuff. And among conservatives, there was this feeling that the kind of non-thinking, love it or leave it, if you don't like it here, move to some other country, that just didn't work for conservatives anymore. They wanted real answers. And Trump, with his rhetoric against the elites, Trump with his talk about tariffs, Trump questioning the wars, it seemed like Donald Trump very much almost pointed toward a break with the neoconservative, non-thinking stuff among conservatives. And he was a populist. And it was similar to Obama, right? The Obama rhetoric on the campaign trail was awful, but you saw a glimmer of something good. And Trump was the same way. You saw a glimmer of something good. But now, at this point, his supporters are chanting that a woman who is a U.S. citizen, has been elected to Congress, should be deported from the country because of her political views. And I have asked Trump supporters, I have asked them, can you explain the policy here? What political view can you have that therefore you should be deported for having, right? Where's the line? Now say that Ilhan Omar had disagreed with Trump about Venezuela, but didn't disagree with him about Israel. Should she still be deported then? This notion that you should deport people for their political views, that is now a position of the Trump people. They were chanting it on national TV. Send her back, send her back. If you disagree with Trump, you should be deported. That's what they're saying, right? Send her back. She should be deported. Trump goes over her political views, and they all started chanting, send her back. That's not a defensible policy. You can't deport people for their political views. You can deport people for committing crimes. You can deport people for other things, but you can't deport people for their political viewpoint, right? That's not a defensible policy. But according to Trump supporters, it is. And the reason that they were chanting send her back is because they're not thinking about this. They didn't sit there and go, okay, well, people that have, yes, I've thought this through, this is my political position. People that take X position should be deported from the United States. I would like that to be, maybe passed as a law. That's a piece of legislation we're drafting here. Maybe we'll make a constitutional amendment. If you take X position, you lose your citizenship. They don't think that, right? They know that people that disagree with their guy Trump or disagree with being a conservative or they're bad, they're disrespecting America, they're not respecting our troops, and they shouldn't be in the country. They're not thinking. It's that non-thinking. That was the staple of neoconservative politics, right? That was why the United States, millions of people in the United States supported invading Iraq and overthrowing the Ba'athist Arab socialist secular government of Iraq in response to 9/11, a crime committed by Wahhabi terrorists from Saudi Arabia. It's not thinking, right? It's jump on the bandwagon, don't think critically, do what you're supposed to do. America is number one, okay? And if you don't like it, you're like thinking wrong, That's neoconservative thinking. And Trump's presidency seemed to be a break with that, right? And I mean, it's disappointing to me because a lot of these Trump supporters, if you talk to them, they have anti-establishment views, or they did, right? I mean, you talk to them, the people promoting QAnon and Pizzagate, right? I mean, they were all about, the government is corrupt, there's some kind of sinister thing, they don't support the wars. That seemed to be what the Trump presidency was about. But now Trump just seems like another Ronald Reagan. He seems like another George W. Bush. You support him, you agree with him, you support his foreign policy positions, and if you don't, you're an enemy and you should leave the country because everyone knows that America's number one. It's just stupid. It's stupid. This is beneath Donald Trump. The reason Donald Trump got elected was because he had broken with this kind of conservative thinking, and now he's embracing it. This is Donald Trump, more than anything, being defeated. Donald Trump stood for something a little bit different among conservatives. And it looks to me like Trump has surrendered. And John Bolton and the neoconservative faction and the people that got their training from Irving Kristol and the Paul Wolfowitz folks and love it or leave it, stupid neoconservative, that kind of stuff has taken over the Trump administration. And if anything, Trump looks very, very weak. Very, very weak when he invoked that rhetoric. I mean, based on that argument, you could deport him, right? I mean, his slogan during his presidential campaign, what was it? Make America great again, right? Like it wasn't great, so therefore he should be deported, right? He doesn't like our country. He thinks it's not great like it used to be. Get him out of there. I mean, it's stupid thinking. It's non-thinking. It's not logical. It's not logical. And the fact that Trump has embraced this stupid thinking that seemed like he was running against in the Republican Party. It seemed like his ascendancy in the Republican Party was a repudiation of. The fact that Trump has embraced that shows that he's really been defeated. Donald Trump has been defeated. Now, he may win the next presidential election, but what Trump stood for at the beginning of his campaign has been defeated.